Hey, it's Jack Snacks and welcome back to the unrivaled chaos that is Helldivers 2. Over the past few weeks I've been reviewing a mix of primary and support weapons, especially ones I'd normally avoid. In doing so, we found a few hidden gems and also a few absolute turds. And this time you probably guessed from the intro clip, it's the turn of the Autocannon. Now, I can't quite make my mind up about this one. If you were hoping for a video of me casually dunking on Bile Titans like the intro for the whole video, you're going to be disappointed. Because this thing just doesn't cut it with the big bugs. It is great for objectives, but most of the time it will just eat up your ammo and that big bug will still be stood in front of you, mocking you. Especially these charges. This was the first one I came up against and wow, I went through so much ammo just taking this one charge down. That's not to say it can't, it's just be prepared to spend a lot of time and a lot of ammo shooting one heavy enemy. You do occasionally get lucky with these Bile Titans. I'm assuming this one was weakened by someone else already. And I also tested this out against a fellow Helldiver by clearing up some of these smaller bugs right next to him. Didn't really do much damage to him, but it did clear up these bugs pretty darn quickly. But anyway, back to more information about the weapon. The Autocannon is a shoulder-mounted monster that will leave your Helldiver deaf for the rest of a short life, which is usually about 5 minutes anyway, and it holds 10 rounds per magazine. But it comes with a backpack counterpart, and that's already a big downside for me because I do love my backpack stratagems, like the jump pack or the guard dog. On top of that, it shares the same flaw as most of the other backpack accompanied weapons, the dreaded stationary reload. Now there is a slight upside. It reloads in 2 halves and you can perform a quick half reload and get back to firing fairly fast if you do it like this. You need to consciously count the 10 rounds as you fire and try not to fire the 10th shot. If you reload before that last round is fired, the weapon performs a super fast 5-round reload. As soon as you see the mag icon half load, you can immediately aim, fire and cancel the animation. Be mindful though, you can't top up the weapon until you fired 5 shots. The quick reload trick only works after at least 5 rounds are spent. Fire all 10 and you are stuck with a much slower full reload in which you have to chamber the first round. But in summary, against the bugs, this thing is great at clearing up big crowds of those small to medium enemies, but for the bigger bugs, I would just pick a few of the stratagems. Now against the bots though, I found this support one was slightly more effective across the board, and it's incredibly effective against the gunships. It can destroy the fabricators, the laser turrets, and can usually take out the tanks in 5 or 6 rounds. Most of the medium bots, like the Devastators and Berserkers, go down in 2 to 3 shots consistently, and surprisingly, unlike the big bugs, this was fairly consistent against the Hulks. The least amount of shots it took was 6, but on average it can take these down in a full mag if you don't miss. There was no point in firing at the Factory Striders though, as most of the rounds ricocheted straight off the armour. But as I have already mentioned, the stationary reload and frequency in which I had to reload left me a little too vulnerable a little too often, which just means I'm probably not going to pick this on every mission. Although this may not be the most effective or meta weapon, I did enjoy using it and figuring out which scenarios it worked best in. But then I discovered this. It has a second fire function. The flak mode. Although it didn't take down the dropship immediately like I hoped, I did notice it cleared up a group of enemies a lot quicker than I had been already. As rather than the shells exploding on impact with the enemy, which means if you miss a shot, you're doomed, the flak will just explode when it's in close proximity to the enemies. Now I had recorded all my footage for the Squids before figuring this out, and it was horrible against the Squids, and I was going to spend 2 or 3 minutes trash talking how bad this weapon was against the Squids. But instead, being the good Helldiver I am, I decided to go back to Planet Boring with the Squids and test out the flak function. And boy, it did not disappoint. It was incredible at taking down the tripods, it was great at trashing the meatballs, it was great at destroying the overseers, and I realised I was actually having more fun against the Squids than I have at any point with any other weapon. Which is a big deal. I have never enjoyed dropping in on the Squids, which I've always been quite vocal about, so well done Arrowhead for this wild card weapon. They seem to have balanced it perfectly against this faction, especially the way these enemies like to cluster together. The flak just chewed through the crowds again and again. do bear in mind it isn't a close range weapon, so bring one of the more elite primaries, like the Breaker Spray and Pray, of course. For whatever reason, this mission was scattered with those Stingray gunships, which are just notoriously a pain in the ass when you're trying to get it done. And this thing just ate them up, repeatedly, which I got many GGs from my fellow Helldivers for providing the most effective anti-air cover possible. So, in summary, this weapon may not be the most effective, and it is definitely more for the small to medium enemies and objectives. Despite its flaws though, it provided a refreshing amount of fun in what can feel like a very stagnant pool of support weapons that you routinely pick. I would probably put this in the same category of usefulness as the trinity of machine guns like the Star Wars, the heavy machine gun and the regular machine gun. So if you like any of those three weapons, I highly recommend this for you. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.